Opening hook. Slow, cinematic piano or ambient score. Some women don't chase, and yet they're never forgotten. They linger in a man's memory like a half-finished sentence, haunting not for what they said, but for what they left unsaid. She doesn't beg. She doesn't explain. She simply exists like a storm that never needed to rage to be remembered. And though she speaks softly, she governs the room, not through words, but through presence. Setup. Archetypal introduction. This woman, she isn't loud nor is she passive. She is the embodiment of paradox, receptive yet commanding, distant yet profoundly felt. In Jungian terms, she is the anima incarnate, the symbolic feminine within the male unconscious. And when a man meets her, he doesn't recognize her for what she is. He only knows that something in him stirs and then unravels. She becomes the mirror he never asked for, reflecting back his shadows, his need for control, his quiet fears of not being enough. But she does not confront him. She lets his own mind do the unraveling. Turn the emotional turn, projection and ego tension. He tries to name her, to label her, to place her in the neat categories that ego requires for comfort. But she slips through fingers like smoke, and in doing so, she activates his projections. Those unconscious expectations born of every unhealed mother wound, every unattainable fantasy. He begins to react to her, not as she is, but as he imagines her to be. He assigns her blame for the ache he doesn't understand, and yet he returns to her, again and again, drawn by something beyond logic, the ache of unclaimed wholeness. Archetypal mirror, feminine power as psychological catalyst. The truth? She doesn't control him by force. She controls him by awakening what he thought he'd buried. Every moment of silence becomes a stage for his mind to perform its own chaos. Every soft withdrawal, a siren song to his obsessive longing. She doesn't punish him. She lets time punish him. Because time spent without her feels like starvation. Not because she gave too much, but because she knew exactly how much not to give. This is not cruelty. This is alchemical femininity, the kind that does not need to act, only to be. Real-life mirror. Relatable symbolism. Picture this. He sends a message. Short, casual, a test. She waits, not to manipulate, but because she is not owned by urgency. She replies eventually, warmly but without hunger, and he feels it, that slow burn in his chest. He cannot explain why her detachment feels like gravity, but it does. And suddenly every other woman seems louder, more available, more obvious. But none of them feel like her, because she is not performing to be chosen. She has already chosen herself. Emotional shift, the dance of anima and shadow. In the unconscious theater of his mind, she is both queen and ghost, and Jung would say, it is not her he's obsessed with. It is the missing part of himself she has illuminated. She doesn't need to make him love her. He loves what she awakens in him, the depth, the danger, the divinity. But with every step he takes toward her, his ego trembles, because she cannot be conquered, only met, and only if he has met himself first. Detachment as power, feminine individuation. This woman is not without emotion. She feels deeply, but she does not collapse into feeling. She has learned the language of silence. She has tasted abandonment and turned it into awareness. She is no longer addicted to being understood. She lets misunderstanding purify her, and in doing so, she becomes untouchable. Men may try to label her as cold, but she is not cold, she is clear. And clarity to a man trapped in ego feels like ice. Closing, liberation line. Music swells, then softens to resolve. The feminine does not scream to be heard. It withdraws and lets absence speak louder than presence ever could. She controls nothing, and yet he cannot forget her, because she saw more than he was ready to face. And instead of staying to explain it, she walked away. The woman who walks away in silence isn't weak. she simply sees more. End screen. Black fade out with ambient tones. Title reappears in soft serif font. Silent ways a woman controls a man's mind? He'll never see it coming? Subscribe for more Jungian feminine psychology.